Welcome back, everybody, to Who's Your Band. I am Jeffrey Paul. Not joining me right now is my co-host, Sean Morton. He's in travels, and hopefully he'll be able to pop on at some point during this. But in the meantime, we welcome on this week. I mean, we have a very exciting guest. I say that all the time, but I love the guests that we have on this show. But this guy, man, he's a guy right up our own alley. He's been doing this for, I'm going to say, over 30 years. He does a rock talk podcast. He has interviewed. I can't wait to pick his brain because he you know what he is? He's the godfather of doing this type of talk, rock and roll music podcast. Let's please welcome Mr. Mitch. Is it Lafon?
Yeah, Lafon, Mitch Lafon.
Mitch Lafon. Mitch Lafon. How are you, Mitch?
Good, and a great pleasure to be here. So, yeah, I started doing this in 1996, the podcasts around 2013. So it's been a while. And of course, my first interview was in 1980 when I was 11 years old. So it's been a long and winding road, and we've seen many faces. I haven't rocked them all, but I've seen many faces.
But that was the thing. I think it was in your bio that you had said that your first interview was in 1980 with Gene Simmons of Kiss, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
June 9th of 1980. So we're almost at the anniversary.
Oh my God. Yeah. We're almost on the exact date. Well, one day away.
2 days away.
Right?
2 days away.
Okay. So you're a kid. Where did you grow up?
Montreal.
Okay. Oh. Are you in Canada? You're in Canada now?
Yeah, I grew up on the outskirts of Montreal, in the suburbs of Montreal, and I'm still in the suburbs of Montreal. It's a good place to be. It's quiet. It's peaceful. I have rabbits and raccoons in the background, in the backyard, I should say. So I have no need to go anywhere else. So yeah, it's still Montreal.
And it's not a bad time to be a Montreal Canadiens fan right now either.
Not a bad time to be a Habs fan. And I grew up living next to Ken Dryden. I mean, he was the street over, but I actually crossed through his lawn every day to get to and from school, elementary school. So it wasn't a bad time to be
I loved Ken Dryden growing up.
He was the greatest. I mean, he really was. He would give us Habs pucks or Canadian hockey pucks for Halloween. And, you got to remember in the 70s, the whole marketing thing wasn't really in existence. You couldn't go to Walmart and buy a Habs puck, So it was a special, unique item at that time. And it literally was my house, through the neighbor's house, who I went to school with, through Ken's house, and then to the school. And that's what we did it every day for whatever, 10 years.
So you were a Montreal Canadiens fan. I guess you're a hockey guy too. But How did you get? Were you into? And you said you're around 11 years old at this point. Were you a big music kid? And I guess that's junior high school year.
Yeah. I mean, I started off listening to all the classics, literally Beethoven. And Mozart and ABBA, because that's what my parents had lying around the house. And then, of course, my brother eventually started borrowing Kiss records and Cheap Trick records and Aerosmith records. And I got into all of that. And I fell in love with the whole thing right away. I mean, we went from, having a Beethoven's fifth record at 7 years old to interviewing Gene Simmons at 11. It really was a rapid ascent. I just fell in love with it. I enjoyed the entire costuming, the entire visual aspect of it. I've always been fascinated by that stuff. And my mom worked at McGill University. In fact, she still works at McGill University, going on to 55 years there, something like that. And she would cross by the Montreal Forum every day to work. And she'd be like, hey, Ted Nugent's coming to town. You want to go? I'll go buy you some tickets. Hey. And it was random because we didn't ask. And a lot of the bands that I went to go see, I didn't even know at the time. But she'd be like, I'll go on lunch and I'll buy you a couple of tickets to whoever. So I saw a lot of shows. And it became very second nature to go to a random rock show. I mean, I saw Rush, I saw Nugent, I saw April Wine, I saw Kiss and Cheap Trick, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And so going to shows just became something I did, and I loved it.
How do you go from going to shows? I guess it's near like the Montreal Forum or something. That would be your, the equivalent
Montreal,
to
Montreal
Square
Forum.
Garden here. But how did you go from that leap to 11 years old, getting an interview with Gene Simmons?
It was incredibly easy. And, on the back of the record, they had the management contact, O'Coin Management, right. And it said whatever, New York City. And in that day, you could phone the operator at, the area code 212-555-1212, and you would ask and say, I need the number for, and they gave it to me, and I phoned the office. Now, this was between Dynasty and Unmasked. I phoned the office and I said, hey, I'd like to set up an interview with, now I always had a great vocabulary. I always spoke very maturely. When I was in grade 8, they said I had a university level English based on testing they had done. So I didn't sound like a kid, and they gave me the interview. And then I had to convince my mom to drive me to New York to do it. I mean, it was a different world.
You went to New York?
And well, my mom drove me.
Yeah. No, I get it. but was this an article that I guess some local paper may have picked up, or was this a recorded interview?
It was recorded. You can actually hear it on YouTube. If you look up Mitch Lafon, Gene Simmons, you can hear the interview. You can hear me at 11 years old. It's on YouTube.
Where did it get published? Where did it get played?
Well,
when you first did it.
My mom was born and raised in Denmark, and so living here, she did the Danish correspondent for Denmark's radio. So she had access to the equipment that the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC, would lend out, because she would do her Danish radio spots at the CBC. So they had a Sunday afternoon kids show. So we did the interview, and we pitched it to them, and they ran it. Might have run in Denmark too, on Denmark's radio. I'm not sure if my mom did that. I think she did. But then it's been on YouTube for the last 10 years. So it ran on whatever the name of the kids show was on CBC Sunday afternoons back in 1980. But yeah, it's not.
You go. So you grow up, high school. Mm-hmm. Were you? As a high school kid, were you playing in bands, or were you still...
No, I have no talent. I tried. I bought a drum set and I tried. And I listened to Creatures of the Night and Mental Health by A Quiet Riot. And I tried to play along to those. And I went, oh, there's no fucking way. Sorry, there's no way I can do this. So I gave up. I tried to play like Frankie Bonelli and Eric Carr, and I just like, well, that's not going to happen. It didn't occur to me I needed to take lessons and actually do the work. I just thought you picked up the sticks and magically you sound as good. So I didn't even bother. I gave up. I'm better at talking. I'm better at coming up with situations and stories and so on. So I went that route, and it lasted until 1996, I started writing for Brave Words magazine. I started doing these interviews for this magazine in Toronto, and that's where it took off. And I've just been plugging away at it for 25 years, professionally.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm looking at some of your interviews, and it's a really interesting, real interesting look. Eclectic almost, like for instance here, you're interviewing KK Downing from Judas Priest.
Those are the recent ones.
Yeah, and then Joan Armatrading as well.
Yeah,
I love
Listen,
that.
There was a time a couple of years ago where one week I had Venom on, and the week after I had Bananarama.
So I love that.
Rick Ashley. I've done Rick Ashley. I've done Boy George. I'm trying to think of what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. I mean, we got Buck Cherry that came up today.
Yeah, that one just came out.
Yeah,
I listened to that one today.
I did Asia this afternoon. Tomorrow I'm talking to Tommy Shaw of
Wait,
Styx.
Asia, hold on.
Yeah,
Asia,
Asia.
Supergroup Asia?
Yeah,
So who's
Heat of the Moment.
yeah, so who's in that now? Because John went and passed away a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now you've got Carl Palmer, Billy Sherwood on, I guess, bass, Ron Bumblefoot Thal of Guns N' Roses fame is singing, and of course you've got Jeff Downs.
Jeff Downs.
Yeah, I did a video chat with Jeff this afternoon. So, that's what I sort of pride myself on is this diversity. First of all, it's not always easy to interview people from different genres of music. Usually a rock guy does rock and a pop guy does pop and the country guy does country.
Right.
And you get really honed at that. I like the challenge. I like the challenge of Joan Armatrading. I thought that was fascinating. They pitched Joan to me and I went, wow, I've heard the name. I know the songs, but I don't know the career. I haven't studied her career. So I studied her career for the interview, and I find that fascinating. And I don't know what it does in terms of the fan base. I know there are some fans that, they want Metallica 365 days a year, or they want Kiss 365 days a year. I don't. Rick Astley was one of my favorite interviews. I mean, he was.
Why
just
was he one of your favorites?
Because first of all, he's exceptionally funny. And he's endearing and he's personable. I mean, he just talks and he's just very nice. I mean, I don't know. He was just fun. And, then you've got the whole Rick roll thing and the whole never going to give you up thing. And it was just kind of fun to talk to this guy that in a sense was made fun of by the general public. And yet here he is, all these years later with a great career, still selling out shows, still doing what he wants, showing up with the Foo Fighters and singing. And he's taken that and he's turned it into an absolute positive. And I just thought it was great. And I love the fact that I know that when I do that and I throw that out there, people are going to go, oh my God, what are you talking to him for? And it's just like, because why not?
Well, he is an interesting guy. You're right. He is an interesting guy. And I mean, the whole Rickroll thing, I mean, I think it introduced a whole new generation onto his music. So I got to assume like his downloads, I guess now, because I guess that's how you measure music sales. I mean, does they even buy music anymore? But
I do. I always do.
Yeah. What kind of music? Good.
Well, I was just going to say, with throughout all that making fun of him that people seem to have done with the Rickroll, it sort of got tossed aside that he's actually very talented. His voice is really pure. It's a great voice. And I saw him in concert, one of the greatest concerts I've ever seen. I mean, you almost go there as a goof and then you watch him perform and you go, there's no goof going on here. This is a serious musician. And then he busted out, he went behind the drum kit and he busted out some AC/DC songs and he played drums to them and sang. And you went, all right.
What song did he play?
I'm trying to think. What's that song?
It sounds a little bit like, is it TNT?
No, one of the big ones. Back in Black.
That's a great song. Shook Me All Night Long.
Let me see. I'm gonna look up Rick Astley, AC/DC, and see what song he does. AC/DC cover.
And when you mention that,
Highway to Hell is what he does.
Oh, it's a great one. Sure.
Highway to Hell.
Sure.
Yeah, and it was great.
But when you mention that a guy like that kind of gets goofed on and he has the talent, one name that comes right to mind is Michael Bolton, who I thought also, remember he started out as a rock singer. I mean, he played with like some great heavy metal musicians, and he just wound up finding like these.
Well, he was in Blackjack.
Yeah, right. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, it's like these guys kind of get like shit on a little bit, but undeservingly, because they are really super talented guys.
Listen, anybody that you and I have heard of doesn't deserve to be shit on because that means that they've gotten to that next level. There's a lot of guys in bars right now, whether it's in Des Moines or Hawaii or Paris, France, that might be super talented, might be the greatest whatevers, and you and I will never hear about them. So the fact that these people, I don't care who they are, get to that next level where they get that general acceptance. Even Rico Suave. Listen, go find him all you want, but he got to that next level. He did something right that we haven't done.
Well, he was a teen TV star before he became Gerardo.
Gerardo. I would love to interview him. I think that's a fascinating story.
100%. I agree with that. Well, Harley, I mean, there's a lot. You got a lot going on here. I like that you spoke to, I love Styx. I'm a big Styx fan. And I saw you interviewed Dennis DeYoung, who I always liked. And now you're going to interview Tommy Shore. When you spoke to Dennis, did you get into the whole, leaving Styx thing? Is there a door opening for, I don't think there'll ever be a Styx reunion, but did any of that come up?
No, and no, not really, but there are different parameters. I grew up in Canada and I got to know Larry Gowan quite a bit. And years ago, I did an interview with Dennis and he said, "Oh, I'm not sure I'm supposed to do an interview. You're the Styx guy. You're friends with Gowan, and I don't want trouble. And I don't." And I was like, "I'm not anybody. I like all the music, And since then, we've become friends. Dennis and I email each other. I appeared in one of his videos. He did a video last year called "You're an A-hole," and I happened to appear in. Not that I was the a-hole, but I was in the video.
Right.
So just out of I don't know, respect or whatever. Yeah, I don't go there. So, the last interview we did was about the new album. We spoke about the new album. So there's no point to go to those questions, which, are going to elicit answers that we've heard a million times. And out of respect, I stay away from that. There's no point in pressing somebody. We know that there's no reunion right now. We know it's a difficult situation. And Dennis is doing great. His last two albums, Volume East, what's it called? East 26, Volume 1. And those two albums, now the new one hasn't come out yet, but I've heard it. They're fantastic. It's some of his best work, even including Styx.
And he's in his 70s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how his voice sounds like that. I mean, anybody who's been a performer, whether it's a football player, a baseball player, hockey, at 70, they don't do this. And he is just sounding better than ever.
How is he feeling?
From all accounts, he feels very good. And he looks good. He sounds good.
Do you mention anything about touring?
There will be some shows. Yeah. As soon as everything gets opened up. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, where you guys are you still on lockdown?
We are not on lockdown. We are on orange zone. So I think starting next week, we can have in-person restaurants and stuff. So we're getting there. The Bell Center has 2,500 fans, where you look at Vegas, it's sold out. But, we're a little more cautious here. I don't know how Vegas is doing it, how you go from, no fans in the building to 18,000. They had 104 capacity at the Vegas Golden Knights. And it's just like, can't we meet somewhere in the middle before we let it all go out of the bar? Anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, I think here, because I'm in New York,
right?
And you can't tell by the way I speak. By the way, so we're in New York, and today I just found out that once we get to 70% vaccinations, they're going to drop all restrictions. And right now we're at 68%. So that's right around the corner. They're going to go really open full-fledged, and you're starting to see concerts come back. I remember tours that were postponed from last year. I mean, one of the big ones that was coming around was Pet Shop Boys and the New Order. I saw those tickets going back on sale, full capacity, indoors, Madison Square Garden, outdoor shows.
Genesis just announced.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the first one came out about a month or so ago, where Primus was coming back, and they're playing at the Beacon, and they were only doing half capacity. Okay. And I don't know how you make money doing half capacity. Well, I know how you do it. You boost ticket prices, and that's what they did. The average ticket price was going like for $250, $250, $400, like for like the nosebleed seats.
And just wait till you get to the merch booth. Suddenly you're going to have $40, $45, $50 t-shirts. But
you're gone. They had it already. I remember one of the last concerts right before the pandemic, I went to go see Iron Maiden, and they started between $30 and $45. Yeah. Def Leppard was selling t-shirts at $60. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Now, you can't always blame the band for that. Having worked the merch booths at different shows, venues will tack on 20% as a venue fee, you're allowed to sell in our venue fee, which I've always thought is kind of shitty, but the big shows are smarter. They negotiate that ahead of time. But listen, I've shown up with a bunch of t-shirts to a thing, and they go, we take 20%. And you're like, I'm only making $2 on these t-shirts. Well, raise your price to $30. And you're just like, okay.
What's even worse is when you're a support band. Some venues won't allow the support band to sell their t-shirts cheaper than the headliner.
No, you have to match. Every time you have to match.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's not usually the venues that do that. It's usually the other band that does that. It's the headliner that comes and says, don't undercut us.
Right. So, I mean, you're a comedian, like Sean and I are, and we were going to, open for one of these bands. Like, no one's going to buy our t-shirt at, $30 a t-shirt.
No. And then they're going to yell at you. They're going to go, who's Jeffrey Paul thinking he can sell a t-shirt at $30? What an ass. And you're just like, yeah, but it wasn't me. It was not me. So you're almost best to just pull them off, because you don't want the rep of being the ass. You just go, oh God, I don't want to have to deal with the Twitter of this guy, So
listen, you can't win on social media these days. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, there's always going to be someone who's going to come, and they have to say something. Everyone's got to chirp. But what kind of music do you listen to, Mitch? Who are some of your favorite bands?
I'm a melodic hard rock guy. I like those big bands from the 80s. I like the Bon Jovis. I like Def Leppard, Aerosmith, Cheap Trick. I've been discovering a lot of European bands. I've gotten heavily into a band called Thunder. They've been around since 89, 90 out of the UK. Haven't made a dent here. FM is another band out of the UK. Haven't made a dent here, but they've had Desmond Child write their songs. They've worked with a lot of, they have great songs that haven't made a dent here. I like a Swiss band called Gothard. They have 20 platinum albums in Switzerland. They've been number one 28 times, including live albums and compilations. Nobody over here knows them, but anything that has a great melody, a great hook, big choruses, that's what I like. I'm unapologetically a Bon Jovi fan, even in 2021. I like everything he's done. And I really don't care about he's softer, he's this, and we need Richie back. No, you don't.
Listen, nice. Bands evolve. It would be ridiculous if they kept, trying to act like they were when they were in their 20s and when Runaway came out. And, you're an artist. An artist changes. Like I said, artist people evolve. Why wouldn't a band?
Everybody evolves. There is a concept in, I guess, either psychology or sociology that we are a different person every 10 years. And the example that I've always said is, when you're 5 years old, you're wearing now in our case, we were wearing something different, but now that they wear the Go Diego shirt or the Dora the Explorer shirt. And then when you're 15 years old, you wouldn't be caught dead in that. And you're listening to different music and you have different likes and different friends. And then when you're 25, you look back at your high school picture and you go, oh my God, what the hell was I thinking? And then you look,
Right.
you hit 35 and you go, oh my God, at 25, I was such a punk. I should have gotten out of the bar and been more. We're different every 10 years. So to expect a band that has 30-year career, 40-year career, 50-year career, if you're looking at the Rolling Stones, to be the same band year, how? The people aren't the same.
Exactly.
And none of us are the same. Listen, 5-year-old Mitch compared to almost 55-year-old Mitch is not the same person.
I think let me ask you about this band. And talk about a band that didn't never change their sound. What about a band like Ace? You got it right, AC/DC on that last album. That album could have been released in '83, and it would have been an '83 album. It sounds exactly like every AC/DC album, and I'm not knocking it. I like it.
Yeah, that's a strange one, because when you look at the bands around, there's only one band that has managed to do that, and it's AC/DC. Whether you listen to U2 or Madonna or Kiss or
U2
Aerosmith,
has changed. Absolutely.
All of them have changed. All of them have changed. Kiss is not playing the same music as 1974.
No, from Strutter to
Crazy Nights or what?
Exactly.
Completely different. The fact that AC/DC has managed to be, and I say this lovingly, a one-trick pony for 40 years or 50 years, or almost 50 years, I guess, at this point, is remarkable. But they are absolutely the exception, because any artist, I don't care who it is, whether it's Huey Lewis, Tower of Power, Metallica, they've all changed. They've all evolved. So, listen, I'm glad AC/DC's done it. And I guess when you go to an AC/DC show and you buy an AC/DC album, you know exactly what you want, you know exactly what you're going to get, and you're satisfied. But there is an excitement, though, of picking up a new Def Leppard record and go, all right, where are we going? Is it Hysteria Part 2? Is it Slang Part 2? Is it High and Dry Part 2? Ooh, I don't know. And you rip it up and you go, oh, I hear a little bit of Adrenalized here. And I hear a little Hysteria here. And there's an excitement to that.
They can come out with a whole new cover album.
Yeah. Part 2.
What a band always kind of is changing. Did you check out the new Weezer album, Van Weezer?
I checked out one song and I didn't understand it in the sense that I saw Van Weezer and everybody talking about Van Halen. So I thought it was going to be like a Van Halen covers album.
Everybody thought that. Yeah.
And then it was sort of like them playing in the style of a more hard rocky, and it didn't float my boat. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just my ears didn't perk up. It's okay.
I think it's their best album since Pinkerton.
Yeah, and listen, I haven't indulged in Weezer. When they first came out, they were sort of the antithesis of everything that I was into. So I didn't really buy into it. I was holding on dearly to the Scorpions and Kiss and Aerosmith and praying for a resurgence. But maybe I should go check out Weezer. It wasn't my cup of tea.
Check it out. I think you may like it. Speaking of Scorpions, did you hear any rumors that they're possibly getting back together and touring into the fall, into next year?
Well, they never broke up, the Scorpions, but yeah, they have a new album out. They've been tweeting all afternoon about song clips from this new album. So they should have an album out later this year, and they should be getting back on the road, which you can never go wrong with a Scorpions show.
Scorpions, absolutely not. I mean, that if they're coming around again, that's a must see on my list. That's like, I have to. I'll find time to catch.
Yeah,
the Scorpions.
They don't disappoint live. I love what they do, and they do one thing in their show which I think every band should do. They have a medley of their '70s stuff where they play "Top of the Bill," "Speedy's Coming," and some of the other songs that will light a fuse in the diehards and go, "Oh my God!" But they play a minute each, and they do like a 7-minute medley, and you get like 7 songs of a minute each.
That's good and it's bad because I want to hear all of Sales of Sharon.
I do too, but the bottom line is that people that are going to shows for the most part are fair weather fans or top 40 fans. They've heard winds of change, and they expect the whole show to be 2 hours of winds. And Kiss has the same problem, and all the bands have the same. Def Leppard and all, they all have that same problem. And Scorpions have sort of figured out a way to do it. They go, listen, either you can go take a pee break for 5 minutes, or you can sit down and listen to these snippets of these classic songs. And at least, you can walk out of there and go, hey, I got a couple of minutes at top of the bill. I'm good to go. I would love that, if Kiss did that, instead of having, the Tommy Thayer 9-minute guitar solo, give us the medley, throw in, whatever, Rock and Roll Hell and Parasite or whatever. And then
I would love to hear Parasite live.
Yeah, people can walk out and go, oh, all right. I didn't get to hear the whole thing, but at least they paid tribute to it. So, all right, I'm good to go. Metallica used to do that. They used to do the Kill Ride Master medley, which was kind of cool.
On this show, Sean, I wish Sean would be here. That you can take part in this. We can take part in this debate. I am a huge Rush fan.
Right.
He is not a huge Rush fan. Where do you stand on Rush?
I'm a fair weather fan. I've seen them live. I was at the show in 1980 that ended up being Exit Stage Left. I was actually there.
Oh wow, love that live album.
Yeah, I was at the Montreal Forum. Every year on whatever March 27th, I tweet out my ticket because I still have my ticket from that night. So I was there. Listen, I like Tom Sawyer and Spirit of the Radio and Fly By Night and all that. I can't name anything in terms of songs past that. I mean, Roll the Bones, but they don't really mean much to me.
Yeah, it's 90s
or whatever. But when they come on the radio or when you hear Tom Sawyer, you got to stop and listen. It's great, but it's not something I purposefully seek out to play. But I've gone to every show in Montreal, or I went. They don't come anymore, obviously. But I went to the last 5 or 6 shows in Montreal. It's always a good time. Can't complain. Musicianship's great.
Musicianship is amazing. I know Getty on the last tour didn't sound particularly good, but musically they sounded great. I heard that they were, at least Alex and Getty were going to be doing something together, and anything that they put out to me would be a bonus. I would love to hear it. Another band out of Canada, I'm just curious, if you're a fan of it. And I know sometimes the word underrated isn't used accurately enough, but a band I never thought got its due enough was Triumph.
Yeah, I just interviewed
Mike Levine, right? Yeah. What are your thoughts on Triumph?
That's that's one of those that in the big early, late 70s, early 80s were, of course, at the Montreal Forum, were all over the place. A great live band, great to see. I bought Sport of Kings, the one album that everybody seems to hate. I actually bought that one. I liked it because it really had that sort of MTV 80s kind of sound to it, that slick rock sound to it, which I guess was the antithesis of Triumph. Again, a band where you hear the songs on the radio, you go, yeah, all right, I'm listening to this, but I don't seek out to listen to them, honestly. I would go see them if they came around. But
do you think sometimes you have songs like you haven't, Somebody Out There? I think it's a great song. It's a song I haven't heard in years. And then all of a sudden I'll find I'll be cleaning something out. I'm redoing my house, and I found a box of CDs and tapes, and I'll play. So I'm playing. I was like, "Holy shit! This was really good, man. I really, really enjoyed it. How come I haven't heard this in forever?" And I'll just start going on a kick like that. I'm doing that now with a Jersey band, Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes, and it's an album I haven't played in a long time called it has Murder on it, Long Distance, and it's just such a great sound, especially with the weather changing, and it really feels like summer when you listen to those type of bands. Yeah.
I saw Southside Johnny open for Bon Jovi, actually.
Well, if you look in his Wikipedia, Southside Johnny has Bon Jovi listed as a past band member because they did go out and play together, and Bon Jovi did play in the band a little bit. Yeah, they did. I think Trapped Again,
early 80s.
Yeah, they did a great version of Trapped Again. So that was pretty cool too. who are some of the newer bands that you listen to?
That's a good question.
You like Greta Van Fleet?
I don't.
Neither does Sean. Okay, that's another big debate that we have on this show. I love them.
For me, it comes down to the vocals. If I like the vocals, I can excuse the instrumentation if it's not, sublime. But if the musicianship is A1 and I don't like the vocalists, I can't buy into it. And I mean, no disrespect to Greta Van Fleet's vocalist, but I just find that sound grating. It doesn't. It's not melodic. It's just grating. Poor guy. I don't mean to be mean to him because they're doing more in the rock world than I am these days. But I just don't like the vocalist. It just doesn't speak to me.
Yeah, they have a new album out. It's the second album, and you can get the growth on it. They don't sound exactly like Led Zeppelin on this album either. You can hear the influence.
They sound like Kingdom Come this time.
They sound like Whitesnake. No, but funny. Yeah, you can hear kind of like the little bit of like maturity and growth. And the reason why I ask you about new music is because who is the next thing? Who's going to be like the next big band? I thought it would be a band like Rival Sons, the 2016 album, Feral. I forgot
I don't know. I don't know the name of that one, but yeah,
it's great. It's so good.
And listen, I think this band called Dirty Honey.
Oh yeah,
definitely has a chance. Ghost is already sort of the next big thing, but I think they have the longevity to be one of these bands that'll last 20 or 30 or 40 years. I don't think they're, the soup du jour kind of thing.
Will they be an arena act band where they're going to be able to sell out without having a strong support band? Can you see them filling up 18, 20,000 seats?
I don't know about 18 or 20, but I saw them at the Place Belle in Laval, Quebec, and it's 9,000 people, and it was sold solid. So they're almost there. They're one great song away from it. So hopefully the next album or two, they will have that hit, or that album will be so they'll have their Black album and they'll be able to sell it out. Who else is really so? Dirty Honey is definitely one. Joyous Wolf is another one. I believe they're a California band, but I saw them open up on a run with Buck Cherry in Canada, and I got to see 3 or 4 shows, and they were just great. They were energetic. The vocalist worked the stage really well. I think with good songs, good management, and a good team behind them, Joyous Wolf could definitely be the next thing. So I would look for those two: Joyous Wolf, Dirty Honey. Those would be my guesses. And
what about your thoughts on Pretty Reckless?
Pretty Reckless is interesting. Their last album did great. I just don't know if they have the stamina to ride it out, because you listen to the stories of the band members and it seems to be an upheaval of emotion every time. I don't know if they won't implode before they get to that next level, but the talent's there. The vibe is there. Tyler Mumson, great vocalist. All the places are there. I just, you hear the emotions going into it and the talk, and you just go, I hope they don't implode before they get to the next level. But talent's definitely there. Last album's great.
Where do you think some of these bands are going to get exposure?
Well,
are there outlets for them for people to hear them? Like, how are people going to find this type of new music?
They're going to have to do it by the new rules. They're going to have to get out there and be very much in the forefront on social media like TikTok. They're going to have to do those 2-3 minute TikTok thingies. They're going to have videos on YouTube that become viral and that are so incredibly good that you have to go see it. They're going to have to up their social media game. They're going to have to be ever present on Instagram and Snapchat and to a certain extent Twitter, and they're just going to have to work it. I mean, you have to work it. That's That's the bottom line. You can't just go do a run of 40 bars across the Midwest and expect to be the next big thing. You got to do the 40 bars, but then you also got to be the TikTok star, and you got to be the Facebook star, and you got to be the Twitter star, and you've got to have a team behind you that keeps pumping it out and keeps the content fresh. I mean, there's nothing worse than some of the older bands. You go to their website and it says new tour this summer, and then you look at the tour dates and it's 2012, and you go, right. You're like, really? You can't.
Who are you referencing there? Because I go on these bands' websites and that infuriates me.
Well, all of them. They all have outdated. You know. You look at Aerosmith. You look at Cinderella.
Van Halen is notorious for that.
Van Halen. I mean, you look at all these bands, and their social media, and it's just abysmal. And you're just like, well, why do you even bother having a website? Somebody says you have to have one, so they open it up and they just leave it there. It's ridiculous. I was looking at trying to think what band it was the other day. I was looking at a band the other day that I was starting to get into, and I looked at their page, and the dates were all from like 2018. And I was like, well, what are you doing?
What are you doing is right. It's so different, like from like when we were growing up, and the way a band would kind of like how the whole business changed, but how a band would get exposure, and how they would put out an album. They would do all the radio stations. Radio stations. I remember in New York here, one of the big FM stations was WNEW, and on Friday afternoons it would be Things from England. Okay. Right. Then on I think it was Sundays, it was all new music, and every show has something dedicated to something new. And if something kind of hit a little bit, they start to get into the rotation. Now, there's no outlets for rock and roll music. It's either pop or R&B, and it just seems so much harder to like get seen and heard by people.
I think that is somewhat of an American reality, because you go over to Europe and you see FM, and you see Gun, and you see Heat, and you see Mustache, and you see the Backyard Babies, and I could go on, Doro. They're still pumping it out, and they're still going on major tours. Thunder, another band, they're doing major tours. They're doing 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 things a night. You've got a band, Inglorious. You're talking about new bands that are great. Inglorious is a great new band. They're all doing it, and they're working it, and they're putting together these great UK tours and great European tours. And then you come here, and you've heard of none of those bands because they can't get here, and nobody's supporting it. And even the Joyous Wolves and the Dirty Honeys of this world are having a hard time because there's just nothing. So they all go running over to Europe to do a tour. So,
right.
Rock is a bit tough in North America, but it's not tough all over the place. Japan and or whatever, Southeast Asia, whatever you want to call it, is still going. Europe is still going. The UK still has a spot. Germany. Sweden has a fantastic, vibrant rock thing, and of course, Frontiers Records is in Italy, and they do a lot of little local shows and stuff. So, there's rock. You just got to know where to go. You got to look for it. You got to move.
Yeah, I just think I guess I think nostalgic of growing up, and you told the story at the beginning here about how you kind of got in touch with Kiss. And my first job in music was, I got a similar way that you wound up getting an interview with Kiss. Remember in the back of albums, if they would have like the address on where the company was located.
Yeah,
okay,
of course.
And one day I'm just like listening to music, have my headphones on, and I'm about to graduate college, and I just wrote down the address of all those record companies, and I typed out cover letters and mailed my resume, and within a week I got a phone call. I'll never forget it, from Martina Washington from CBS Records, asking me to come in. Within 3 weeks later, I was working in A&R. I was the go-between between A&R finance department and the artists themselves. I was the guy who they sent all the their invoices to, their bills, and I made sure our accounting department got it, and I kept track. And it was a good job for a kid who was like maybe 22, 23 years old when I graduated, because if you were a musician, I remember a Canadian musician, Aldo Nova, played on a lot of different records.
I just spoke to Aldo. He phoned me the other day. Like 2 days ago.
He's still doing good. But I remember
I literally live 10 minutes from him.
Remember, he had just for our audience, they had the song Fantasy. He had a big song called Fantasy. It was a great song. I think he played every instrument on the album too.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But I remember getting a phone call from him. Hey man, can you get me my check? And like, I'm talking to Aldo Nova at the time. This is when Fantasy was kind of like a big hit. So I remember doing that. So it was a great job and great entrance into the music business and how it works.
1982, that must have been. Holy mackerel!
No, wait, he was already playing.
So Fantasy was 82.
Yeah. He was playing on someone else's album. That's a lot of these guys would play on other people's albums. A lot of it, because again, I worked at Black Rock, which was on 52nd Street, and just a couple of blocks down, you had Saturday Night Live and Letterman, and all those guys, Anton Fig and a whole bunch of them, all played on everybody's album. And so they would submit their invoices, and I could either get you paid within 2 weeks, or I can make you wait 3 months. So it was nice. I would always get invited down to Letterman show or Saturday Night Live, and it was a pretty cool thing. It was not, especially like if you're dating a girl, and that was like a pretty cool in when you're 22, 23 years old. To be able to have that experience.
It's a great experience. Yeah, but Aldo and I, we literally just spoke about 2 days ago. He called me. He just lives down the road. I was at his house not too long ago. I got to pose for a picture with an official Grammy. I'm very excited about that.
So you're the kind of guy, man. You seem to live in the right area. Ken Dryden, Aldo Nova. Who else? Who else are some of your rock and roll friends?
Rock and roll friends. Well, if you're looking at neighbors, we used to have Bill Stoneman, the Expos pitcher, who was a neighbor down too.
I remember him, sure.
But rock and roll friends, listen, I'm friends with the guys in Warrant. I'm friends with the guys in Dawkin.
That's right up your alley. That's your music, right?
Yeah, who else can we consider friends? Steve Brown of Trickster is a good friend. Just a bunch of them. I text with a bunch of them. We email with a bunch of them. It's it's good. There used to be great. Well, Bobby Blotzer of Rad. I'm a great friend with Bobby.
Great guy.
I like Bobby. He's completely misunderstood. I mean, he has a passion for the music. He has a passion for what he does. And sometimes, hold on. Got a dog back there that seems to be having an issue. No, but he's got a great passion for the music, and he just wants the show to be the best show possible. And he just wants the song to be the best song possible. And I don't know why people bust on him. Between him and Rick Ashley, people bust on him all the time. And yet you can't have a Rat song without Bobby playing drums.
No, I remember one afternoon I was hanging out with him and Warren DeMartini.
Yep.
Also of Rat, and this was at I don't remember if you back. I think it was like I'm going to say 88, either 88 or 92. I'm going to say more 88. It was Arista Records. It was Atlantic Records. I think
40th
it was.
anniversary.
40th anniversary concert, and I worked the rehearsal and I worked the show.
Oh, wow. With Led Zeppelin.
Well, here's I'll tell you a story about that, right? So Zeppelin comes in to do a rehearsal, and Jason on him. It's the original band. Jason is playing drums. I go with Jimmy Page and in the band and their management, and we take an elevator up. It's going to be at Madison Square Garden, and they get themselves acclimated, and now they're going to rehearse, and they wanted to get rid, the arena, and they wanted to do like a closed rehearsal. Yes. I got to be like one of 25 people who got to see them rehearse, and
Wow.
they did
That's
Cashmere.
pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, and then I got to see them a little later on, a few years later. They were at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at the Waldorf, and I think they did When the Levee Breaks, because there's no mistaking that those drums in that. That I think the drums make that song, and I think Jason was playing that, and Jimmy came off stage, and he actually gave me his guitar.
Wow. You have it at home?
No, someone from management came and said, you can't keep that guitar. Give it back.
I'm telling you, if somebody gives you a Jimmy Page guitar, you turn and hightail it out of there as fast as possible.
He gave it to me. He gave it to me with his own two hands. And listen, you don't want to cause any waves, because then all of a sudden you're not going to be working these kind of gigs anymore. But I have the memory, and I have all the laminates and all the shit from there. So those were all good times. But so what's in the future for you, Mitch? What's going on with your show, and what I wish we got a chance to talk more. I love talking music with you. I would, but I also wanted to know a little bit more about your journey in the show, and tell us a little bit about the show.
Well, the show started sort of accidentally. I was doing a Kiss podcast with two other folks. And it got to a point where I just thought, I don't want to just talk about Kiss every day for it's too much. And I thought it was somewhat finite, because, when you start discussing what's the best album cover and what's the best cover song they've ever done, and it's just like, oh my God, this is tedious. So I left, and then I thought, well, okay, well, what do I do? So I started my own show, and Mark Striegel at Talking Metal said, well, come be part of my thing. And I said, okay, I'll go do that. And then Westwood One called and said, well, come, Podcast One called, and with Chris Jericho, and said, come be part of our stuff. And then moved over to Westwood One. And then eventually just went to the whole solo version of the thing. That's sort of how it happened. It was sort of, by accident. it was serendipitous. It was, there wasn't a grand plan to do this. And literally in the last 5 years, I've retired 86 times, because I get to a point where I just go, oh, it's enough. I don't want to do this anymore. And then somebody always goes, oh, come on, keep going. Come on, just keep going. I retired this year in March, and my buddy Jeremy went, no, you didn't. I went, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to talk to anybody anymore. And they went, yeah, you do. And I was like, okay, fine.
What's your listenership like? You must have incredible numbers.
Yeah, it does very well. I mean, I've always been exceptionally controlled about that, because I don't want to. You don't want to gloat, but then you also don't want to. But then you have that insecurity going, well, this sounds like a lot of people, but maybe it's not. So I just always, but no, I do very well. I mean, listen, I put up an episode.
You have more than 100 listeners, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm messing with you.
Yeah. No, we're talking. Yeah, we're talking better than that. But listen, I'll put up an episode, and within the first 15 minutes, there'll be over 1,500 downloads. Because I put it up. I put it up, and then I recheck and I check the spelling, and I keep it open for like 15 minutes after I load it up, just to make sure that there's no something. I guess it's OCD, but I just check nonstop, and you'll see an episode will go up, and in that 15-minute window, there'll be 1,500 to 2,000 downloads, depending on who the guest is, but. Yeah, I mean it does very well, and I have ads on the show, and the ads pay comfortably, so it's okay.
So what kind of advice can you give like podcasters who to get like seen, to stand out, in like this huge ocean of podcasts, and everybody seems to have one. Every comedian has one. What's like the secret there?
I think it comes down to like anything else. Content is king. You have to have good content. Whether you like Rick Ashley or Bananarama or the guys from Venom, I always give I think I give a solid interview. So I think you have to have that. I think consistency is important. I see a lot of podcasts that'll put up 3 shows in a week and then nothing for 2 months and then another 1 show in August and then nothing till October. And you have to be dedicated to it. I hear a lot of podcasters go, yeah, I did the show and then my wife and then this and then I had to walk the dog and you're like, well, you're going to have to focus. You got to get at least one up every week, every Monday or every whatever. And I think you also need to learn how to speak properly. I think I listen to a lot of the shows and they sound very juvenile. It just sounds like 2 knuckleheads having a knucklehead discussion. And
wait, did you listen to our show?
I have, and that's exactly what I'm referring to. And I was like, boys, no, but I think that, there has to be a certain consistency, a certain professionalism to it. And I think content is king. I mean, I listen to some of them sometimes and how can I put this? Sometimes there's too much local color. You hear these 2 guys talking about the barbecue place down the street and you're going, listen, I'm in fucking Montreal. I don't know what you're talking about. So if I don't know what you're talking about, why am I here? Oh, guess what? Now I'm not here because I just clicked you off. If you want to speak to a global audience, you sort of have to keep that in mind and not be, in my opinion, not too local color. I mean, I don't spend hours on the show talking about the Montreal Canadiens' recent win, because if some guy's listening to me in Australia, which for some reason I have a big fan base in Australia, don't ask me why.
Well, maybe because you talk a lot about international music.
I do. And that's the other thing I do. You listen to, and I'm not comparing myself to Eddie Trunk, but Eddie does a lot of American bands. He does a lot of Warrant. He does a lot of that. And he's got that cornered. I can't penetrate that defense that he's got. He's got the wall around that. So that's why I go to the FMs and I go to the Thunders, and because I'm going, there are people that want to hear these stories from these bands, and what's out there is not delivering it. So that is part of why I try to do that international appeal stuff. And I have found that a lot of the fans I have happen to like music and not just a band. So they let me get away with Joan Armatrading. They let me get away with Boy George because they're like, hey, it's a good music story. So that's, that's the one thing I'm very conscious of, is that the guy listening to me in Sweden doesn't give a rat's behind about the Montreal Canadiens. He doesn't care. And so if I'm talking about them for 10 minutes, he's tuned out. Can't afford that.
That's a good that's a good tip there for people who are listening to this show, and
well, if you want to have an international audience, that you have to keep that in mind. If you want to be, this is the fireside, the Long Island fireside chat, fine. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. But if you're hoping to get people listening to you in Vancouver and Melbourne and Tokyo, nobody gives a rat's ass about Frankie's Red Hots down the street.
That's right. So a couple of our biggest episodes have been, we had Volbeat on.
Oh, great band.
Yeah.
Great live band.
Yeah. And we had somebody else from Australia on. Sean did that interview. I was caught up that day. But that's the thing. We try to keep it, try to keep it like, universal. And I think that's a good thing too. I think it's, it's true with comedy. And I think it's true with when you're talking, you don't know who's going to be listening. So you want to kind of include everybody.
And what kind of comedy do you do? Is it situational? Is it slapstick? Is it I insult your mother? Or like, what are you doing?
No, what I talk about is I talk about things like that are happening in my life. Like in the past year, I tried to put a unique look on getting the vaccine. The people I have to deal with would tell me not to get the vaccine. Getting it back out there and traveling, and how you kind of like you wax poetic about how great it was on the road, and then I was on the road. back in April, I started to go back out and start traveling again. And, you realize it wasn't what it was. Cause I remember going to the first night I'm in the hotel, I put my bags down, I go into the bathroom and there's a shit log floating around in there. It's like, great. I wanted a mint on my pillow, but this is what they gave me, So this is what I'll talk about, obviously being in a relationship, with my wife for over 20 years, having kids, how much I hate growing older. So these are the things I talk about. And also being in The Irishman. That's something I talk about all the time. We talk about that on the show every week.
See, so that's I'm trying to think. Everybody loves Raymond. Who was that comedian again?
Ray Romano.
Ray Romano. God,
yes,
I've gotten old. But you're the new Ray Romano.
Yes, I'm the new Ray Romano with I don't know what the hell
Sebastian
this is
Maniscalco or whatever his name.
Maniscalco, yes, he was in The Irishman too.
Great talent.
Got to open for him.
I had always wanted to be a comedian, but I never got around to it. I make funny jokes sometimes.
Listen, you do what you do, and you're great at it. Okay, you're a great broadcaster. Do you do radio? Do you do live radio as well?
Oh, well, I actually did a live spot yesterday for Toronto. We were talking about the Tragically Hip and the Junos. They called me at 7:00 for a live spot on a Sunday, and I was like, God Almighty. 7 a.m. I was like, 7 a.m. on a Sunday, really? They go, we love you. No.
You can do it from home.
Yeah, a lot of the stations are doing Zoom calls and taking the Zoom audio, but works for me. Listen, I happen to have loved the pandemic, and I don't mean to disparage anybody who passed away. I'm not making fun of them, but for me, my personal circumstance, I'm not downgrading anybody else's. I live in an area of 500 people. There's probably like 50 houses here or less, and I got raccoons and rabbits. So being isolated
has
sort of
them are famous neighbors.
Well, a lot of them are, yeah. I've been isolated for the last 20 years, so it didn't bother me, and I didn't really have to wear a mask ever because there's nobody around. So, I'd go to the grocery store once a week. So once a week, I wore a mask for half an hour. It wasn't exactly a burden. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed going to the grocery store and having people have to stand 6 feet away from me because, how many times you're standing in line to pay for the groceries and somebody bumps their cart in the back of the knees and you're like, really? You're in that much of a fucking hurry? Like, fuck. That hasn't happened in 18 months. It's been glorious.
Those are good selling points. Maybe we can get another lockdown coming in a couple of years when we forget all about this and we go back to our old shitty jaded ways.
I kind of hope, I don't know about the grocery stores here, but here what they've done is one big feeder line. You got to go into the feeder line, and then it redistributes you to the cashiers. And there's a little board that says, lane 6, lane 5.
It's like the DMV.
Yeah. And it seems to me that it's going faster because normally you end up in that one line that ends up having the slow cashier and you're just going, oh, fuck, if I had just chosen line 8, I'd be out of here already. Now you're in that massive line and it feeds you to the first person that's available. And it's like, this is.
Yeah, I like that. I like that too. But listen, I know you got to run.
I got to go get my daughter. Yeah.
You have to get your daughter.
Got to be back in time for the Habs at 8 too.
One last thing.
Yeah, go for it. I'll give you 5 more minutes, whatever you need.
No, I don't want to hold you. So what's in the future for Mitch, and how could our listeners follow you?
Well, the future is hopefully going to be retirement.
You're not retiring.
Trying to convince.
You're too young. What the hell are you going to do? You look great.
I'm going to walk the dog. I got 2 dogs here that are begging for attention.
Okay, so you can give them a little bit of time. You're not retiring.
I'm going to keep doing the interviews. I am going to be a little bit more selective in who I talk to, and they'll be more selective in talking to me too, I guess. I'm going to try to be a little bit more diversified. Try to pick up a whole bunch of interesting guests, and I know the show is called Rock Talk. The show was originally called One on One with Mitch Lafon. I got to podcast one. They said, we don't like the name. We're going to change it. Admittedly, I've never been comfortable with the change because I thought one on one was better because one on one opens me to talk to a football star, a hockey star, a baseball star, an author, or whatever. Rock Talk sort of forces me to talk to rock stars, which is great. But anyway, I don't want to rebrand everything. But that's just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm very focused on the socials. My Twitter is at Mitch Lafon. Over the last year, it got verified. So big thank you to Twitter for that, for recognizing. And, it does 10 million impressions a month, 100 million impressions, 120 million impressions a year, Twitter impressions. So I kind of like that. That's the kind of numbers that makes my head spin. And I'm like, wow. This is fascinating that you tweet out, Bon Jovi released a single on this day and it just gets this enthusiastic response. So I'm very keen on that and keeping that going. So the @Mitch Lafon on Twitter, my goal used to be to get to 25,000. I've passed that. So my next goal is to get to 50,000. And, I'll keep working until I get there. And then my next goal will be 100,000. So.
Mitch, we wish you nothing but success. Thank you so much for taking.
Let me ask you one question.
Sure.
What made you interested in hearing my story? I'm always fascinated because my story is my story. I've lived it.
Well, it's kind of like why we started this podcast. Is I think people like music, and I think people are passionate about their bands, and we'll interview politicians, comedians, actors, musicians, and I like to know about people. I like to know, who their bands were, how they got started in music, what their music experiences were. And when our talent booker, Mike, gave us your information and said, would you be interested in interviewing Mitch? And I was like, well, he's doing what we do, but on a much larger scale. And, I just was like, I would love to talk to this guy. But I also love talking to hearing about, who your bands are and your background in music and the music that you like. I love talking to people about their music, and so that's the reason why we reached out to you.
Music's a great healer.
Agreed.
And I don't know about you, but I'm not a music snob. I can sit here and tell you I love a Madonna song as much as I love a Kiss song, as much as I love a Venom song, as much as I love a whatever song. If it's good and my ears like it, it's all I need.
Adam Holtz, our producer, could verify that to you. I get into the arguments with people all the time because I'm exactly like that. I love Madonna. I love Black Sabbath. Iron Maiden is my favorite band. But I also love George Strait. As long as it's good, I enjoy listening to it.
Yeah, if it tickles my ears, as I say, I'm down with it. I always get a lot of people. I'll post. What did I post the other day? It was. Posted about Simple Minds or something, and a couple of people goes, "Hey man, you're supposed to be posting about metal," and it's like, no, posting about music, but thank you.
But those are the same guys that Metallica sucks now because they cut their hair. Which makes no sense to me. Now, listen, Metallica looked weird at the time because we were used to a certain look, but I look back at their 94, 95, 96 now, and yeah, all right, they looked a little different, but whatever. Do you remember the video for Stars by Hearing Aid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was nothing more pathetic than looking at an aging rock star and the light will be in their hair, but you could see through their hair. It had grandma hair. Right. So when you get older, you can't tease it up still. Rudy Sarzo still has great hair, but you look at some of these aging rock stars and it was it's cut it. or you become Dolan Turner and you just go dark black and it looks like he's wearing like, his auntie's wig, But,
yeah, I wore my wig for you tonight.
Yeah, you pull it off, man. You got good eyes. You got a nice smile. You're a handsome guy. I can't go bald. I have to. My head is in the shape of a pill. I would not. I could not pull off bald. I'm holding on to the Mayan ruins here. This is the remains of a once great civilization.
And the funny thing is that I started shaving my head bald before I actually went bald. I started doing this when I was in my 20s, just because it was so much easier just to step out of the shower and be ready to go. I know that sounds incredibly lazy, but there's nothing worse to be in like January in Montreal and it's minus 30 outside, and then you got your long hair and you're freezing. And you're just like, oh fuck it, just shave it, and then I'll just walk right on out. I'm good to go.
I want to say you were 55,
52.
What are you in shape? You're in shape, huh?
I walk a minimum of 5 kilometers a day.
What is that? What's that in America? I not only do I live in New York, I live in Staten Island. Okay, and Staten Island, if you're not familiar with it, it's really Brooklyn with the cover charge. Okay, so how many miles is that a day?
See. Well, today I did 7K. So 5 kilometers to mile, as I do the conversion, is 3.2 miles a day. Minimum.
Yeah, because I'm saying, like, you look like you're in shape. You look fine. What are you talking about?
And today it was 40 Celsius, which was like 97 degrees or something like that. It was crazy out there. It was like 100 degrees. So I did the 5, but on days when it's 75 degrees outside, I do 10 to 12K. I just walk. I just walk. I put on my headphones, listen to music, and just walk for 2, 3, 4 hours.
Last year during lockdowns, that's exactly what I did. I would listen to some of the new bands, the bands that we, people I didn't know, people sent us music to check out. That was actually using your downtime productively.
Yeah. But I've been doing this for the last like 10 years. I just like to walk. I don't like to sit all day. I like to walk. So I just go. And I looked at my dad, who's still alive, 91, but when he hit 50, it was this pill and that pill and stomach pill and acid reflux pill and that. And I went, I ain't going there.
You don't take any pills?
No, I don't have any pill. I mean, I take pills when I have a headache, but I don't have any daily medication.
You go to the bathroom 24 times a day?
I'm normal, once a day. No. I'm
talking you peeing 24 times a day. When you reach like in your 40s, it seems like you have to go to the bathroom all the time.
I don't know how we got into toilet talk, but I don't pee 24 times a day.
You don't know the depth that this show can go.
But I do know that when I pee, it lasts forever. I mean, they're like 4-minute pees. It just never fucking ends. But I don't take any pills. I got no high blood pressure, low blood pressure, this, that, nothing. And I don't want them. I don't want no pills.
You're okay. Listen, thank you so much for your time, Mitch. Go get your daughter and
go watch the Habs.
We get to visit you again.
Absolutely. We'll do this again later this summer.
Awesome. Everybody, Mitch Lafon, thank you so much for coming in and spending some time with us. This has been Who's Your Band. We'll be back next week. Thank you very much. Thanks, Adam. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye now.